How did you find out someone had a crush on you? Was leaving school one day and my small group of friends were hugging and saying bye when this girl that I was into but didn't know if she was into me raised her arms up and says, "What about me?" It was the best hug I've ever had. That was in 2005, we've been together ever since. Had a girl keep banging my leg under the table at a young Saint Swiss chalet in the fall of '91. I just thought our group was too tight together and she needed space. Turns out I'm just a clueless idiot. We've been together since April of '92, so luckily she was persistent.
Similar thing happened to me. She kept banging my leg under the table, but I suspected she had a crush on me that I had too, but another guy on the table was hitting her hard. Later the day she sent me some pictures of the party online and I said, "That guy really has a crush on you?" She said, "Yeah, but he's not the guy I'm interested in." I replied, "I know, my knee is hurting, and now we are married."
I once had a girl introduce me to her friend like this: "This is Tim. I have a huge crush on him, but he hasn't figured it out yet." I guess she'd gotten tired of waiting for me to figure it out, lol. She worked at the McDonald's near my house. She kept giving me free bacon every time I ordered a McDouble. I don't eat pork. After like the third time, I go in the store to complain. The cashier calls up the girl in the back and she basically explains the bacon was her way of flirting with me. She was cute, so we did end up dating for a bit. It was weird. I asked her out and she said she was a lesbian and I was crushed, but I respected it. Found out later from a mutual friend that she was lying, actually liked me too, and she said, "It wasn't in the plan for me to ask her yet." The mutual friend essentially said, "Dodge that bullet, while you still have a chance." Edit. For those who have been asking, this was in first year of university. I saw her around campus fairly regularly after that and she never approached me about it. And the mutual friend had a massive falling out with her for some reason or another and then we grew apart as the years went on. Very anticlimactic, I know, but what are you going to do? Edit 2. My problem with it was indeed the lying right from the start, no matter what plan she had. I did question said mutual friend to give her the benefit of the doubt regarding her sexuality. It can be complicated, but they were very insistent and I had no reason to doubt the mutual as they had never lied to me before or after. We had a lockdown drill and at the time, I was in Spanish with one of her best friends. So she, very carefully and deliberately, crawls over to me from the other side of the room. She's 15, 6 feet 2 inches, and just army crawling her way across the room towards me. Literally everyone in the class, including the teacher, is just staring at this girl. Let's call her Maria. I'm sure if the teacher had a second to prepare, she would have told Maria not to do this. But, again, this is a big girl just army crawling her way across the floor. No one woke up and thought this would be what they would see that day. So, she gets across the room and just sits up next to me and greets me. She makes small talk, which is normal because we're kind of friends too, because we've hung out in groups before outside of school and we're also part of an after-school thing. So far, the army crawling is the only abnormal thing to happen here. Suddenly, she asks me, "So is there anyone you like?" And at the time, I did kind of like this one girl, that we'll call Elizabeth, but she's part of the group and the after-school thing and her best friend and we're all about 15 to 16, so I didn't want to say her name, so I just said, "Yeah, is it Elizabeth?" You should also her out, but what if she won't? Maria had a very serious look on her face and being like, half her size, I was briefly scared for my safety because she also said this with a lot of authority. As it turns out, Elizabeth had had a crush on me for weeks and just constantly talked about me to her friends, who'd repeatedly tell her to just ask me out but that she was too scared to make the first move and they were all sick and tired of hearing about meso. Yeah, that's how I found out that Elizabeth had a crush on me. Asked her a few days later, because I was a pussy and was too scared to ask her out that same day or any of the other days I saw her, and we dated for the next 10 months or so. She was actually my first real girlfriend and is still one of my longest relationships to date. When I was in 10th grade, I was on a high school concert band trip to another state. We were riding on a bus and it was the middle of the night. Pretty much everyone was asleep, but I've never been able to sleep in a vehicle, so I was still awake. This charter bus had outlets, but for some reason, only on the right side of the bus. The girl to the left of me, across the aisle, asked me if she could use our outlet to charge her phone. She had a really short charging cord, and she kept using her phone after she plugged it in, so she had to lean over into the aisle. After a few minutes, she put her head on my shoulder while using her phone. I was stunned. Many guys considered this girl to be the prettiest in our class, and I was a huge dork that to my knowledge, no one ever paid attention to. I sorta looked around, and everyone else was sleeping. I wondered if I should say something or do something, but I didn't. I just sat there not moving and said nothing. Eventually she unplugged her phone and stopped putting her head on me. I always wondered if it was intentional or if she just thought she was leaning her head on the seat, lol. She offered to shave her vagina for me. Context: I was at work having a conversation with a couple of female coworkers about their grooming routines. I worked in a mostly female clothes shop at the time. As they were explaining their choice of either bikini lines, runway strips, or Brazilian, they then asked me, as a guy, what I preferred. I said I quite like it neat or shaved, and another female colleague walked in and blurted out, "I'd shave mine for you," turned bright red and then hurried out of the room. I don't think she meant to say it quite as bluntly as she did, bless her. I was in a relationship at the time, so nothing happened between us. She sent me an email with pornographic photos with our heads pasted on them. She had been an internet friend that I had no romantic interest in and never flirted with. She never flirted with me either, so far as I could tell. We had talked for about 3 years, almost daily, but always platonic stuff. She was quite a bit older than me, and while I never told her this, I looked at her more like a fun aunt that I got a girlfriend, and when I told my friend about it, she absolutely flipped out. Cussed me up one side and down the other. Told me I had broken her heart. On and on and on. I was stunned. I apologized and told her I had just seen us as friends and hadn't meant to make her think it was anything more than that. That's when the porn photos started showing up. And creepy, this could have been us, messages. I blocked her on everything, which was like 2 things because this was 20 years ago. About a year ago I got curious and looked up her name. She ran for and won a small government position in her hometown about 3 years back. Found some newspaper articles and discovered a few things. She had been married for 30 years, she had claimed to be single when we talked, that I had been 19 when we started talking. She had claimed to be 30. She had actually been 42. She had kids that are older than me.